Okay, so we're looking at simultaneous equations. We're continuing with simultaneous equations. Points of intersection of graphs. If you're given two graphs, equation 1 represents a graph, equation 2 represents a graph. So if we have two graphs and we want to find the points of intersection, that means where these two graphs cross each other, where they intersect. Okay? So the first thing we do is solve them simultaneously, get the value of x. Essentially, we will have a value of x and y, the coordinates, to show that this is a point. If this is one graph and this is one graph, this point where they meet is a coordinate x, y. Okay? So when we are solving them simultaneously, we have to bear in mind that we are going to get coordinates. If they meet at one point, we will have one coordinate like that. If they meet at 2 points, then we will have two coordinates, maybe xy1 and xy2, depending how many times they cross each other. So let's solve. The first step in solving simultaneous equations, we have to substitute. You can say, let us substitute equation 1 into equation 2. Okay? So since y is equal to 6 over x in equation 1, we substitute for y in equation 2. So where there is y in equation 2, we'll put 6 over x. So we have 6 over x, which is this, equals to x minus 1. Okay? Now, to simplify this is algebra. We multiply x everywhere so that we don't have a fraction anymore. Okay? So it will be x times 6 over x equals x times x minus 1 times x. Okay? So this is x. So x, 6 over x times x, these will cancel out. So we will have 6 equals to x squared minus x. Then let's write it in the form of a quadratic, because we see the power 2 in the form, we want to write it in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That will be x squared, then our coefficient for x is minus 1, minus x, and then when our 6 goes that side, it will be minus 6 equals 0. Okay? So now we have a quadratic equation. As you can see, this is a quadratic equation. Okay? This is a quadratic equation where our a is 1. A is 1. Our b is minus 1. Can you see it here? Minus 1. And our c is minus 6 here. Okay? So, remember, in solving quadratic equations, we say we want a number whose product is a times c and whose sum is b. Okay? Do you recall that? So, what number do you think that is? Because the product of a times c is 1 times minus 6, which is minus 6, and the sum b is minus 1. So which two values? When we add them, we get minus 6 When we subtract them, we get -1. Can we think of two values? Let's start with 1 and 5. We start with, since they are minuses, let's start with -1 and -5. When we add them, we get -6. But when we multiply them, we don't get -1. So that's not. Then let's try -2 and -4. When we add them, we get -6. When we subtract them, no. I mean, when we multiply them, we don't get -1. So let's try -3 and 2. When we add -3 and 2, do we get -1? Oh, yes, we do. When we multiply them, do we get -6? Oh, yes, we do. Okay, so definitely you will not be given questions where you have to investigate for so long with try and error. It will always be straightforward. If you use your common sense, you would see a product of -6, a product leading to -6. It means one of the values has to be a positive and the other a negative. Because when you multiply a positive number plus a negative number, we get a negative number. So since we want -6, so you would start with -1 and 5, -2 and 4, -3 and 2, okay? So -3 and 2 is the answer. It's the two values that will factorize this equation. Okay, so let's now take these values and factorize the quadratic, right? So x squared, coming here, x squared, so this minus x, we break it down into the -3 and 2. -3x plus 2x -6 equals 0. So we bring our x out and then we get x -3 plus, bring our 2 out, we get x -3 equals 0. So we have 2x plus 2, x -3 equals 0. Okay, so we have our solutions as x is -2 and x is 3. And then we have to substitute them back to get the y values. So we can use either of the equations, always pick the easier one. So let's use equation 2. We substitute for -2 and 3. So our values for y is y equals, where there is x, we put our values of -2, -1, giving us -3. And the second value of y, we substitute with 3. We get y is 3 -1, giving us 2. So those are our two values of y. So we've got our coordinates as -2 and 3, and 3 and 2. So these are our two intersections where the two equations meet. In the next video, we will look at how we can draw these two graphs and indicate where they intersect. Thanks.